Hi, my name's Isaac, and this is a brand new 2023 Subaru Crosstrek, and today I'm gonna review it for you guys. One of the things I'd like to look at in this video is why the Crosstrek still sells so well, even though the body style on this is largely unchanged since its original introduction in 2012. Sure, there have been minor mid-cycle refresh elements on the car, but this chassis and the frame is pretty much the same. This car still continues to sell incredibly well for Subaru, and I'd like to figure out why. Starting out up front on the Crosstrek, the first thing you'll notice is that even though this is a 2023 model, it still has halogen headlights, fog lights, and incandescent turn signals. Very basic, but they get the job done. That is a theme that will continue throughout this car and is probably one of the main contributing factors to why it's so popular. One thing I wanted to point out particularly while we were up at the front end is this grille. Now this is the premium trim, and my friend Luke bought this car because he wanted to get it in manual, and you can only get the Crosstrek in manual with the premium trim. Though it is worth noting, not many cars come in manual at all now, so it's nice that they still offered this as an option. But with this premium trim, you get this particular grille up front, and what I think is funny is clearly the Crosstrek has a 360-degree camera or front camera available, and it would go right here below the Subaru badge, but since he doesn't have that on this lower end trim, they just put a plastic piece right there, and you can tell that clearly there is supposed to be a camera there, but there is not. And another theme that continues throughout this car is that there are a lot of blank switches if you want to get the manual transmission.
Moving underneath the hood in this Crosstrek Premium, it's powered by a 2-liter 4-cylinder making 152 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque, and that is paired to a 6-speed manual transmission. If you step up to the Sport trim, there's also an available 2.5-liter 4-cylinder with a little bit more horsepower and torque.
Moving to the profile of the Crosstrek, starting here with the wheels and tires, you'll get P225 60 Geolander G91 tires around these 17-inch STI wheels. Yes, you can actually get STI wheels from the dealer when ordering these things. My friend Luke found that out and he liked the black design, so that's a neat little option. And then I've always liked this on the Crosstrek. You have this matte black fender flare that kind of continues down the body length and then into the rear wheel well as well. And then that's kind of a line that's continued throughout the car. The Mazda CX-30 that I recently reviewed also had this styling cue. And I didn't realize till now that the Crosstrek really blazed the trail for these small crossover SUVs that are off-road focused. You know, not super off-roady, but still styled in the way and with some features that allow you to be able to take this off-road, which I think is really cool. And then right here, you have a body color mirror cap. You'll have heated mirrors, which is nice, and they are, of course, power. No keyless entry on this because, as I mentioned before, it's manual. And as we move around the back, there is incandescent turn signals, and I really like these taillights. These taillights came in a mid-cycle refresh a couple of years ago, and I think they make it look all the more sharper. And I think, you know, overall, this is a pretty sharp car in general. Not a huge fan of that grille in the front, but obviously you could change that out if you really wanted to, or you could get a different trim. And then you'll have Subaru back here, all-wheel, I'm pointing way higher. I'm looking at it and I'm pointing at it, but there you go. Subaru, all-wheel drive, and then Crosstrek there. And then you will have a tow hitch because this is capable of towing. And then speaking of simplicity, there is a little button back here. You'll have your backup camera. And then that lift gate opens up. There's no power options, no power closing, very simple. And then moving in here, one thing I absolutely love is that you not only get a cargo mat back here, but the backs of the seats also have rubber matting on them that is Velcro and can come off. So if you have a big thing that is dirty that you put back here, it won't mess up the backs of the seats. That is so useful, very convenient, and the way you raise and lower the seats is also very simple. Pop them up, and then if you want to bring them down, you just drop them like that, and then you can take these off if you want to clean them, and that really saves you a lot of time and space. So, with the exterior done, let's take a look at the interior. Moving to the interior of the Crosstrek, again, simplicity abounds in here, though it is still very nicely appointed. As you can see, the dash and the seats have this cool orange stitching with this carbon fiber material. It's not carbon fiber, but it's made to look like that. And then the stitching in the seats as well is just so cool. Very nice pattern. Even though this is a lower trim, it still does have a lot of nice features. That orange stitching even continues into the steering wheel right here. Now let's look at the door panel really quick, because you'll have a nice soft touch rubbery material up here that you can rest your arm on. And then down here you have that as well if you'd prefer to rest it lower. And then you'll have your window controls. Your fronts are power one touch down, one touch up. Though your rears you do have to hold. Then you'll have your mirror controls right here and more of that faux carbon fiber material next to the door handle. Then down here you have a lot of blank switches. You have your brightness for the gauges. I guess I have to turn this on. So your brightness for the gauges if you want them dim or brighter, and then your traction control off button right there. And then down here you have your gas cap switch, which is kind of a strange placement. And then these are manual seats. If you'd like power seats, you can go a little higher up on the trim line. And then right here you'll have your volume, your source, Bluetooth controls. Love that Subaru still includes this on the steering wheel. I know a lot of manufacturers charge extra to have volume on your steering wheel. It's just so convenient. I don't know why they don't just do that from the factory. And then over here you have your cruise control settings. And then moving into the gauge cluster, right here you'll have two traditional gauges, your tach and your speedometer, and then this really tiny black and white center gauge cluster screen. Very simple. It gives you your trip, your miles remaining with the fuel, and that's basically it. There's a button down here you can switch between, and as far as I can tell, that's all you can control from that center screen, which is okay. You don't need anything crazy. It is very simple, but it tells you what you need to know. And then moving over here, you'll have your infotainment screen right here. I love this. So it's a very tiny screen. It's probably 6 inches across, very small infotainment, but it still has Apple CarPlay. I love this. It's so neat how tiny this little screen is, but it still incorporates CarPlay. Now, obviously, I know iPhones are smaller than this, but it's just cool to see a full car infotainment system incorporate it like this. And it's very quick. It's very efficient. You can go to all your different apps in here, lightning fast, so get your navigation pulled up on here, and it's still very accessible to the driver, very easily seen. But you will have physical buttons for the controls for your little infotainment system down here, and you do get a CD player. Don't get a lot of CD players anymore. Very rare, but I think that's probably a carryover since this car has been on the market largely unchanged, like I said, since 2012. And then up here, you have your climate control screen. So very interestingly, your climate controls are located down here, and you can control everything from here, these little dials, and then the screen will tell you the readout. So in the front here, even though this is very basic, you do have 3 screens within eyesight, which is more than I get on my truck. And so even though they're very simplistic, and again, this is just a black and white readout, it gives you everything you need to know with your climate controls. And then down here, you also have your hazard button. And then, as I mentioned, this is a 6-speed manual transmission. Love to see it. I don't get to review a lot of manual cars, so I always am really excited when I have the opportunity. Now, simple, but it still does have a backup camera, and it has guiding lines on the backup camera. We have hidden my tripod and Luke's backpack back there, but there you go. You can see it on the backup camera right there. Pretty clear backup camera for the most part. And then down here you'll have heated seats, so it's not completely sparse of features. Though it is a lower trim, you still do get some nice amenities like this, though there is another blank switch right here. And then down here you'll have 2 cup holders, and then your traditional e-brake. And then opening the armrest up, there is some folders, I guess you get, with explanations of how to take screws off. Any new car comes with that, I suppose. And then you also do have a 12-volt outlet down here, so that's very nice. But basic mirror, basic dome lights, not even, these still look like they're halogen dome lights. They don't look like they're LEDs. And then you have an emergency calling thing right there, and there's your mic for Bluetooth. But very simple, no sunroof or anything in here. But let's take a quick look at the back seats, then we'll get this thing out on the road to drive. Darkness is encroaching upon me at 4:45 p.m. Ugh, I hate living in Pennsylvania in the winter, so I'll try to get everything in here very quick. This interior in the rear is very basic. There's no fold-down armrest right here with cup holders. The seats are comfortable, but there's no climate vents or anything back here. Very simplistic, pretty normal for rear seats in a car. No crazy features. All right, so we're taking the Crosstrek seriously off-road in this very light gravel and dirt, which is, as I suspect, what most Crosstrek owners will do. I doubt many people will take this seriously off-roading, but it does really have the capability to be used in a little bit of a sense in that way. So I think the big reason that the Crosstrek still sells so incredibly well and hasn't gone through an incredibly major update. Even into next year's model, we can see that they are still building it on the same body style, just changing, again, some minor mid-cycle things. I think the big reason is because it's perfect. I mean, there's really nothing that needs to change. People love it, and it's very practical if you want to take it off-roading, and it's very practical and useful if you want to keep it on the road. It's kind of a jack-of-all-trades car, and that's why people love it, with the reliability of Subaru. And so you have some cool options like this manual transmission if you want to be able to do that, and if you want to keep it automatic, you can do that too. There's a host of different customization options with the Crosstrek, and I think that lends to why it's so popular. And as I'm driving it, very smooth. I'm driving it on some gravel and dirt, you know, a little off-roading right here, and it's handling it very well.
That's going to conclude my review of the Subaru Crosstrek. But before I go, I'd like to mention that I am a Christian, and if you have any prayer requests, I'd love to be able to pray for you. You can leave those in the comment section below. And I like to close out on a weekly Bible verse. This week's is Hebrews 12:28. Therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom which cannot be shaken, let us have grace by which we may serve God acceptably with reverence and godly fear. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.
We're going uphill here. Oh, I might have to kick it. Oh, yeah, come on. Yes! Saved it, sucker. We're going uphill. Saved it in manual. I do not drive a lot of off-road manual, and I always upshift instead of downshift, and I saved it.